each pitch to each city and town that I go into is different, for sure. So it's challenging. I love the politics of it all. So and I must add that Perkins Grant money is a federal program, so you have to lobby most of the congressmen to make sure that the funding comes through. But there are special interest groups that are gnawing at that big pile of money. And as I said, that the watering hole is beginning to run dry, and the animals are looking at each other differently.
Jay, how many students from North Reading?
36.
36 students from
Yeah.
North Reading.
Yeah, and your allotment is 19 freshmen. So it is, to me, the difference is that a trade isn't a state. So with the spiraling college tuitions the way they are, our enrollment, especially in the cities, is always going to be high. We could fill our school with just city kids, but most of our students use their trade to work their way through college. 60% of our kids are going on to school, but these are going to be apprentice plumbers, your apprentice electricians, your HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning kids. They're going to be working there all of those summers and all of the vacations to put themselves through college. So work and jobs is what we're about. That's what a vocational school is. Career tech, they call it career tech. And finally, even in these hard times, the state can see the direction that we're going in. And they've advertised in April for an associate commissioner of vocational education and labor and workforce development, so that the jobs that we need to be filled in this state can be done with vocational schools. And so once again, we go back to jobs. This is what it's about.
Mel,
That's what we're about.
So a quick statement, then a couple of questions. I'm of the belief that we, I guess I'll use the word force, although it might not be the right word. We force too many kids to go to college because they don't have. I don't think there are enough vocational school seats. So I'd love to see that expanded. That's my statement. I think. You know, my question, there are two questions. The simple one is how do we determine the allotment of 19 freshman slots? Is that by population or?
By population.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the second question is, I think most of us around the table have heard your building down there is not in the best of shape, and it would be great if you could get an upgrade, new building, renovation, addition, whatever. And I'm just curious as to if you.
That's the beauty. That's the beauty of having a tradesman in your school. We need all of our construction. If we need a classroom and there's an empty space, then we create a classroom with with
over here.
Yeah, we could use it in North Reading.
We're a kind of a city unto ourselves since we don't have a tax override. We have no power to tax. We have no power to have a stabilization fund. We do our own plowing, so we are, a city unto ourselves. The unemployment in the district, North Reading, is not too bad. It's 7%. 562 people are unemployed, but to give you just, I don't mean to take too much time.
No, that's fine.
No, this is
It's
great.
good to have you.
To give you a quick overview of what the microcosm of America, which my district is, you take a town like Chelsea, for example. Homeowners and renters, the percentage that they spend on housing, just housing alone, on their income, is 60%.
Oh.
So their discretionary money that's left over to send their kids to feed them, to send them to college, is almost out of the question. North Reading, for example, the percentage that they spend on housing is 36%. So you can see the wide span here. Malden and Revere also fall into that same category. So their discretionary money is few and far between. So if you're asking me who is filling our school when North Reading doesn't fill their allotment of seats, those cities are gobbling those seats up as fast as you can, and never ever complaining about their assessments. Never.
Jay, thank you very much for
Okay.
coming in. We really appreciate it, and I want to get you home in time for
Go
the,
Bruins.
I understand how the Bruins are playing. Judy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank
Now you
you.
see why I bring him with me.
Yeah, he's got all the information.
Thank you very much. Thank
Told
you.
you the Bruins were playing.
Somebody said that. All right. Next on the agenda, and also out of order, is the North Reading High School International Travel Proposal. Mr. Bernard is here, and I don't know who Mr. Bernard brought with him, if anybody, but come on up.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yes, they're in their packets.
It's a tough assignment for you guys, but somebody has to do it.
Notice we always pick warm places.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah, I mean, you know.
You should be.
Well, thank you for having us tonight and for taking us out of order. I do appreciate that. I brought with me tonight 3 teachers from the high school, Jessica Weathers, Sarah Winnicku, and Caitlin Corrett. Jessica and Caitlin both teach in the science department, and Sarah is an English teacher. And they have made an effort to take over the advisorship of our international travel club for next year, because our current advisor, Ms. St. Arnaud, is going out on maternity leave for a portion of next year. But we've had such good success the last couple of years with trips to Costa Rica this year and Spain last year, that we were really reluctant to let things go and not try to have a trip internationally in the coming school year. So Sarah, Jessica, and Caitlin have agreed to do the work to coordinate the trip for April of 2012 for students to go to Italy. And they're going to talk to you about how it came about that Italy was the choice and what they've done up to this point. And then ultimately we're going to ask for your approval to endorse the trip for, like I said, April of 2012. So I'm going to turn it over. I think, Caitlin, you're first. Is that
Actually,
right?
I'll
Oh,
go
Jen-
first.
okay.
Yeah, we'll just start with some introductions, I think, and then maybe talk about the background, travel background at North Reading High School, and then the itinerary of the trip. So my name is Jessica Weathers. This is my second year with the North Reading School District. Like John said, I'm a science teacher up at the high school. I have extensive international travel experience. I've lived abroad in Costa Rica and Ireland. And I'm proficient in the Spanish language as well. We've got Sarah Winnicku, and this is her 8th year at the North Reading School District, and she's an English teacher at the high school, who has also traveled extensively throughout Europe, and has actually taken this specific tour that we're going to propose while she was in high school, so has fond memories of it. She also knows conversational Spanish and has lived abroad in England as well.
You know you're going to Italy, right?
I know, right?
I just want to make sure that.
I know.
Okay.
It's close to
Right,
it's
good.
close to Italian.
All right.
Even though we don't speak Italian, we want to give our background.
All right.
Right,
all
yeah.
Good, good.
And then Caitlin Corrett, who has been with the school district for 7 years and a science teacher at the high school as well. Traveled extensively again through Europe and North America, and has actually led a student trip to Montreal, and also proficient in the French language. And we have a fourth.
We're
I
surrounding.
tell you,
it.
you got it surrounded, yeah.
Yeah. It's important here.
If you get lost, you're going to be fine.
And we have a fourth chaperone, a possible chaperone, Harold Martin, and Mr. Martin's a French teacher up at the high school.
He speaks German?
No.
Yeah, right.
French and Spanish.
Yeah, and Spanish as well, right? So, and he was one of the chaperones on the Costa Rica trip, and also has led many other travel student trips to Europe and I think around North America as well. So. That's kind of the background, or our backgrounds, and I think Caitlin's going to talk next about the travel experience at North Reading
Yeah,
High.
so as John already mentioned, we have had a number of trips with the chose Italy. For whatever reason, I really think that's because there's such strong ties to Italy here through family. A lot of them were talking about, oh, my grandparents are from here and blah, blah, blah. So, and it was overwhelmingly April as well. So that's what really prompted us to go with Italy. We are all willing to do that trip together, although it was not really our first choice to begin with. But, you know, it's really about making the most for the students. So we did go with choosing Italy, and we are going to go with EF Tours, who is the tour company that Ms. St. Arnaud has worked with past couple of years. And Sarah's going to talk a little bit to the itinerary of the actual trip.
So I hope you have the itinerary in front of you, and I'll just touch on some of the highlights of it. Once the students had narrowed it down to Italy, we selected between 4 different tours, and in the end, the one that we chose, the basis for choosing it was cost, because we wanted to keep the cost as low as possible to allow as many students as possible to come along on the trip. What the students were interested in seeing, and with input from Mr. Martin, the fact that this tour, which is called Bella Italia, allows us to stay in each city for a number of days rather than just hitting a city for one day and then having to leave. He felt that would be a real benefit. So as far as a brief overview of the itinerary of the trip, our plan would be to leave the Friday that April vacation starts, so we would miss that one school day. And then we'd return the following Saturday, so the dates are April 13th to April 21st. And we would fly from Boston into Milan and then travel by bus to Venice. Once we arrive in Venice, we'd be spending a day touring St. Mark's Square, the Grand Canal, the Doge's Palace, and seeing a glass-blowing demonstration there. And then the next day we would travel to Florence, and there we'd take a guided tour of Piazza della Signora, Ponte Vecchio, Chiesa di Santa Croce, the Duomo, and we'd see a leather-making demonstration. The next day would be a structured free day in Florence, with each of us taking a different group of students. And then the day after that, we would travel to Assisi to visit the Basilica of St. Francis and continue on to Rome from there. And once in Rome, we'd visit Vatican City, the Sistine Chapel, St. Peter's Basilica, the Colosseum, the Forum. And then on our final day, we'd have another structured free day in Rome, and we'd depart from Rome back to Boston. So that's an overview of our itinerary, and there's more detail in the printed copy that you have.
I have one quick question before I turn it over to the committee. What was the interest? How many kids showed up for the interest meeting?
We had 30 students. show
30.
up. Yeah, and actually I was going to touch that. We really believe that in order to for the students to get the most out of the trip, we want it to be a larger trip. We're looking to get 24 students.
Okay.
And we're looking to get 24 by July 1st. We've worked it out with the EF Tours. If that number is not reached, we can choose to not run the trip. The students will receive a full refund.
Okay.
So as long as if this should it get approved, we are going to make that push to really, advertise and get those kids that did come to that meeting, see how confident they are that they are going to,
Yep.
choose to
All right.
participate.
Committee, questions? Anybody?
Questions or comments?
Questions or comments?
I think this is fabulous. One of the things that I think most touched my husband's life early in life was to go on one of these tours, and in fact he went to Spain, Russia, my gosh, they went all kinds of crazy places back then, but he remembered it very well, and it was actually, I believe, the same tour company. So he loves this. When I told him about this coming up, he thought, "It's the greatest thing ever, and I'll go because I speak Italian."
Well, they need.
Yeah.
Don't speak
No.
Italian.
But I think this is fabulous, and I think it's a great opportunity to tie culture